Well, the job interview is, on the one hand, the thing that most candidates want to actually have more than anything else, but it's also, for most people, a real ordeal, an absolutely terrifying experience. One of the things to realise is that there are certain things you can do to minimise the terror, although there's always going to be a bit of that, I'm afraid. It's just the nature of the activity. One of the basic principles, which most people ignore, I'm afraid, is to not over-prepare. A lot of what happens at the interview is going to be something that you can't really anticipate, the precise questions you're going to be asked and things of that sort. So it's really a waste of time to prepare yourself excessively for the interview. All you'll do by doing that is stress yourself out and make yourself less relaxed, less comfortable, less fluent, and therefore less effective when it comes to the actual interview. My own personal advice would be that the day before the interview, as far as possible, you relax and do something completely different. Go fishing, watch TV, do something that will take your mind off the interview and leave you completely relaxed. Just as with examinations, last minute cramming is actually counterproductive. When you actually arrive in the interview, you want certain things to come across about yourself, because these are the kind of things you need the audience, the panel, to take from your performance and what you say in the interview. You want them to think that you're an interesting person, someone who has original or stimulating thoughts and ideas. Above all, you want them to think, to accurately think, that you have a continuing and developing research agenda. What you do not want to come across as is one of those people who is going to publish what they've done in their dissertation, maybe do a bit more in that particular research agenda, but then not do anything else. Because that means you're going to basically run out of ideas and publications in about 7 or 8 years. And that is no good. They're looking for somebody who's got other ideas and who is going to develop new ideas over the years and therefore be a productive member of the department for many, many years to come. They're not looking for someone who's just going to work for 5 or 6 years and not much more. You want to also come across as being a collegial person, someone who is good to work with, someone who is going to be pleasant to have as a member of the department, someone, in other words, who's going to be a good colleague, somebody you'd like to have as somebody to work alongside of. You will always get asked certain questions, and you do need to expect these. You'll be asked questions about your ability to relocate, about your personal commitments, and anything that might be problematic, such as family commitments or connections, and you should always answer these honestly. Do not ever try to obfuscate or conceal anything like that. Far better to be honest and upfront straight away, no matter what the potential cost might be. You should always be straight about that. You'll also be asked a lot about your research interests, as I've said. And one of the questions you're certainly going to be asked is what you think you will be doing, say, 5 or 6 years down the line. Do you have any kind of research project you think you might be pursuing in the future? You must have an answer for that, even if it's a fairly vague or general answer to the effect that you're interested in a certain kind of area, because if you can't answer that question, then you're not going to get the job, because you will fail on account of not having some kind of longer-term future or project as a scholar. One of the things that may come up is that people may ask you whether or not you are indeed coming from a particular intellectual or ideological perspective. It may be that the work you've already published or papers you've already given at conferences and elsewhere will make it quite clear to people on the panel that you've got a certain kind of take on things, a certain kind of position. If you're asked about this, whatever you do, do not seek to conceal it or again or obfuscate it. Be very straightforward, honest about this. Explain what your position is, defend it, but without being defensive and touchy about it. That's also bad. Just play it straight. If you do so and you come across convincingly and as a sincere person, very, very few people will count that against you. In fact, if you spin it the right way, you may well come across as being even more interesting, adding to the variety of departments. And departments often like that. They're not necessarily wanting to appoint people who are simply an echo chamber of their own views, at least not if they have any kind of quality as academics, and hopefully you're going to be going to a place where there will be high quality students.